As the Christmas break approaches, clear skies grace the natural scenery of northern New York, where in the heart of the land lies the virtual Watkins Glen International for the first road course race of the season and the final points-paying event before the new year. Live from the Glen, we bring you coverage of race number 13 in Season 6 of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series and to our coverage live on the KBueno Racing Network. So happy to have you for another Wednesday night where alongside Francisco Bacallao, I'm Kenneth Bueno. And Francisco, last season it took us a total of 3 races to find a road course in the schedule. It's taken us way longer this time. It's a brand new challenge, an endeavor for the drivers with the Xfinity Series car making its debut at the Glen here in 4-wide action. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm very excited to be here, Kenneth. First time out with the Xfinity cars racing, and it's going to be interesting for sure, Kenneth. We've seen this car in the years in the sim is one of the best overall as far as ovals and road courses is concerned, so it's going to be a lot of fun to see what these guys are able to do and just who's able to stand out with this race car. We saw that in the Gen 6, certain guys were able to stand out in the field and road courses. With the next gen, it was a couple of other guys that were able to go up to the top, so we'll just see who exactly looks to shine with this race car at this new challenge. And Watkins Glen, not a particularly difficult track if you look at it just from the surface level, but of course there's still challenging sections to the racetrack, but it's not as complex as maybe a Circuit of the Americas is. But located in upstate New York with 7 turns, opening in the 1950s, Kenneth, it's one of America's fan favorite racetracks all around the motorsports community.
And it's a long-time NASCAR road course as well. Before they really expanded the road course palette in NASCAR Cup Series racing, and even in the lower series, they usually raced only at Watkins Glen and at Sonoma Raceway in the Western California state. So really, this track is an OG when it comes down to road course racing with stock cars, and tonight will be no different. They gave this track a refresh a couple of years ago on the iRacing service, so we're also going to see somewhat of the nuances and intricacies of what it's like to race here at Watkins Glen as these drivers tackle it. And as we talk about, Francisco, the Christmas break that will approach in a couple of weeks, after we get the All-Star race done next week at North Wilkesboro, we have to talk about who's in and who's out. We know that TJ Bursk, you don't see him on the screen because he has fallen outside the top 20 in point standings, but a lot of big shakers, some drivers that have certainly separated themselves from others, and the biggest thing, Francisco, new points leader Eric Schaefer has been able to hold out over Lawson Peel.
Yeah, Eric Schaefer has been very consistent this entire season, Kenneth, and Lawson Peel's had a couple of issues at 2 races, and that's all it's taken for him to drop from the points lead despite having those 2 race wins and a bunch of top 5 finishes. But if you look at your top 3 for that matter, Kenneth, in Eric Schaefer, Lawson Peel, and Ethan Fonseca, the 3 of them have been stellar this season. Nothing really to complain about the performances those 3 have been putting on as they've been class of the field. Each one of them having visited victory lane, of course, separating themselves from the rest of the field. Those 3 guys definitely should feel comfortable about making the playoffs. And if you look down the order from Brandon Banks, Luke Canup, all the way down, whilst Banks and Canup have performed, either showing up to a race or 2 or maybe having a bad luck is all it needs for them to be able to be in that cut line battle, which is very tight, Kenneth. And at a track like this, it could shake things up as we are about halfway through the regular season.
I don't think, Francisco, we've seen the battle for the points be this close at the cut line in a while. We usually see it sort of fluctuate. There's ebbs and flows in there, but all season long, we've talked about single-digit points separating those drivers, at least 1 or more of them inside the top 14. So it's been a lot of fun to watch. Just shows you the competitiveness here in 4-wide racing in Season 6. We're ready for how much it will shake up or how much it will stay the same as we get out of here in Watkins Glen, New York. Let's take a look at the rearview mirror before we wrap up qualifying and get you to the starting grid for the first road course race of the season. And Francisco, boy, Atlanta was a showdown. We had it right at the start of the oval refresh update. Here's the green flag with Luke Canup at the front of the field. Tony Kivitt going around for a spin early, then Colin Forrester taking the lead. We saw a lot of changes before Brandon Hawken took control.
Yes, Brandon Hawken, a rookie driver in his debut, took the lead very early in the race and was showing out until a caution comes out here for Scott Healy having an issue with hardware, causes a pretty big crash down the back straightaway, ends a green flag run. You see multiple cars involved, Kenneth, and on the ensuing restart, Wyatt Brackett gets clipped in the right rear and goes into the outside wall. And there we see some excellent action, Kenneth. Remember, this was our first race with the oval refresh update that iRacing provided.
And you and I were talking about it before the show, just how different it is to everything we've seen on the sim so far. There's Brandon Hawken leading the race, but chasing him down under strategy was the 45 of Luke Knupp, running the bottom, getting past all the lap traffic in front of him, and then getting past the leader who had dominated the race up until that point. The 45 took the lead, and he never surrendered. Pulled away to get his second win of Season 6 in the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, and ultimately, Francisco, adding to the list further of BBR winners in this series. The 45 gets to burn it down. He becomes the 4th driver to get 2 wins in the season. The other drivers so far have been his teammate, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, Lawson Peel, and TJ Burst. You can imagine for Luke Knupp, as he runs 2nd in qualifying right now, that big win at Atlanta meant large things for him, not only in his championship pursuit, but also for momentum.
Of course it did, and the way you know that is he introduced himself with the interviews with the Undertaker theme. I think that kind of summarized exactly how he felt about it. He was ecstatic. He felt that he had Phoenix go away from him a couple of races ago, and he wanted to get the victory to be able to kind of make up for that as well. And sure enough, he was finally able to do so. Has had some good runs between then, and he's hoping to continue that here today. He's a pretty solid road course racer, Kenneth, so of course he's going to be trying to look for an opportunity to claim a road win so he can win on the road, and of course turning left as well. And you see guys lining up on the racetrack to be able to do a pace lap here around the racetrack before we take the green, Kenneth, and we'll get through the starting lineup in a second. But how interesting is it going to be knowing that the next time these guys go to a road course, it's going to be in the playoffs, and not just any road course, but Sonoma, which has not been on the schedule since Season 1. So it's going to be a new track for almost everybody in this field.
And it's also going to be interesting, too, because last season we saw a combined total of 4 road course races. This season, you only bring it down to 2. The drivers who are good at this type of racing, they're going to have to make the use of what they've got in terms of opportunities. And I think, to toss to your point about sound effects and the Undertaker theme, I think BBR just might be the king of sound effects on Discord whenever they join the interviews. We've seen one from Moreno, now one from Knupp. We might see some from Jaden Porter. Maybe from you if you go on the track.
Oh, okay.
But we'll see. Drivers are on track here at Watkins Glen, New York. Let's take you trackside for the start of race number 13 in Season 6 of the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. And on the pole, picking up right where he left off, is Brandon Hawken, who led the most laps at Atlanta 1 week ago in his debut. He looks to make his second race his first win. He starts with a 1 minute 12.99 or 966 time rather to put him on the starting grid. Up front here with Luke Knupp, the winner from last week, on the outside of row number 1. Those two will be the first to see the green flag. Lawson Peel in the 12. He's the defending winner from last season at the Glen. He rolls off in 3rd. Ethan Fonseca Moreno makes it 2 BBR drivers inside the top 5 in qualifying. He's outside in position number 4. Scott Healy, we know him as a solid road course veteran. He starts inside the top 5. Kyle Benson, who led this race from the pole last season, will roll off from the 6th starting position in row 3. Row number 4 behind him, you will see the driver of the number 28, Jaden Porter, alongside Adam Alashire, and rounding out the top 10, Eric Schaefer, your points leader in the 3 car, and Colin Forrester, the Jacksonville native, right outside.
11th goes to the 1 car of Lance Hill. Alongside him, another rookie who's done a pretty solid job, Ryan Pandicio, in the 12th position. Trevor Haley, another rookie in this league that has done a fantastic job, will be in 13th, with Craig Lounslugger looking to get some momentum in the 14th position. Kevin D'Elia was involved in that crash with Wyatt Brackett, looks to do something with a 15th starting spot. And AJ Green, a former champion of the series, will be rolling off in the 16th spot. Brandon Banks down in the 17th position, with Tyler Murray, the league owner, in the 18th spot. And rounding out your top 20, rookie Craig Parks and Curtis Kelly will be alongside him in the 20th position.
21st will go to Austin Reedy, first to not set a qualifying time. Jesse Prees on his outside in 22nd. Wyatt Brackett, who got put in a crash last week at Atlanta, is 23rd inside row 12. Brandon Gillis on his outside in position number 24. Rookie Jeff No is 25th. Patrick Thompson on his outside in 26th. That'll be row 13. David Brackett is 27th, joined alongside by Michael Newbraw in the 6th machine for Drinkin' Bros Racing in row 14. And rounding out the 30-car field from the Glen, the 30th place machine, the 42 of Christopher Bishop. So right before we get to green flag racing, look at that track temperature in the triple digits here in upstate New York. I know we're in mid-December, so it would be really cold in real life, but still very hot in sim time. 83 degrees. Air temperature with winds to the southeast at around 9 to 10 miles an hour. Should keep an eye on that as we move forward. It's the first road course race of the season. These drivers haven't seen it since the end of season number 5 with the next-gen cars, but it's entirely new territory this time around. Brandon Hawken, the rookie, leads on row number 1. Luke Knupp, the sensational driver for KBueno Racing, on his outside. Pace car will make its way out of the final corner, turn 7. We'll see the green flag for the first time tonight in road course style. Pace car is down. Brandon Hawken and Luke Knupp lead him to the green. We're racing from the Glen.
And a clean turn 1 for most of the field as everybody's able to scathe the way. You see a car up towards that outside wall on the outside of turn 2. That looks to be the 43 of Ethan Fonseca. Didn't get off the line too well. He loses a spot there to Kyle Benson. You see Luke Knupp was able to go up into second, but the start from your pole sitter, Brandon Hawken, was able to get off the line, was clear into turn 1, faces no pressure as you see cars jockeying for position as they go into the bus stop for the first time today.
Clean through it all. A lot of drivers single file, not really wanting to take the risk that early on through the downhill carousel, one of the toughest corners here at the Glen. Fast pace exit before you get to turn 6 and 7 to close off the first of 55 laps. We'll see here in upstate New York. Hawken leading, Luke Knupp right behind him, Paul Lawson Peel back in third. Then our first side-by-side battle you're watching a little outside the top 5, rather close, between Adam Alashire in the 91, Jaden Porter in the 28. But out of the final corner, it is all Brandon Hawken leading the first lap here from Watkins Glen. Battle further back inside the top 15. Looks like Kevin D'Elia trying to get at it with a skirmish. That was Colin Forrester. And then Trevor Haley right in front. Looks like they all single out before turn 1.
Eric Schaefer was making a move to the inside of Jaden Porter. It looks like he got loose because there you see Porter way ahead. And now there's Schaefer making contact with Hill as Hill almost gets into the outside wall.
Pushed him way up the track, and now Trevor Haley, Kevin D'Elia get into the mix. The 3 car with a bit of trouble putting in the gas pedal out of turn 1. And this is going to be the main thing we'll notice, Francisco, over this race in comparison to the one we had a season ago. The next-gen cars, you have way more grip. And while, yes, they are rear-wheel drive, heavy horsepower V8 stock cars, you can still get them loose. These cars are definitely different in that sense. You do have to wheel these things a lot more than you do the next gen. There's not as much downforce, so as the tires wear out, you are going to get way sideways, and we're going to see a lot of those moments from the drivers over the course of the event.
And they are going to wear, Kenneth. We saw the track temperature 123 degrees when we took the green flag. It indicates just how hot it is out there, Kenneth. You have to remember, yes, it's December in real life, but these drivers are mid-season right now. It is the summer months in the sim, so it is extremely hot out there, and they're going to feel it.
So far, no effects, though, for your top 3, Hawken, Knupp, and Peel. No changes between them, but looks like the battle for third might creep a little closer if that 64 is able to get to the back bumper of the 12. They have since separated quite a bit from everybody behind them. You see Kyle Benson in the 38s running in 5th. Ethan Fonseca Moreno, we saw him a little wide there in the S's on the opening lap, but he's going to settle in nicely where he's at. Adam Alashire pulling away from Jaden Porter to currently hop into the 7th place position. And this seems to be the mindset for everyone at these road courses, Francisco. You want to stay as clean and comfortable as possible, especially with that factor that we talked about, these tires wearing out, very hot track temp. Last thing you want to do is push your car fighting someone. So guys like Moreno, who you're riding on board with now, planning this strategy out tactfully, saying, hey, we want to race single file for the moment. We want to take care of our tires before we even thinking about get another driver next to us.
Especially because you have to realize, Kenneth, that there is going to be no cautions for tonight, no competition cautions at road courses once again. So it's just straight 55 laps of action, figure out how to get to lap number 55 in the fastest way possible. And so that's going to change the strategy approach for most of these drivers. You're not going to see really a split in strategy as far as guys pitting before the competition caution or something like that. They're going to figure out what's the best way to go about this race. And I think you might see most of the field attempt a one-stop. I think a one-stop might be in the playbook, but I'd be surprised if somebody might go for that two-stop if tire wear is extremely high.
Here we watch a battle for 13th. This is Colin Forrester in the 99, who just broke top 20 in points after last week's event at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Certainly nice to see the turnaround, Francisco, for the Jacksonville, Florida native for Stonks Motorsports, who has been able to reap in a lot of success in his short tenure in this series. Looks like he holds off D'Elia for now, but early in this season, Francisco, we definitely counted him out. With all the bad luck that he encountered in the first couple of rounds in this season, we did not see him as a big factor, but slowly but surely, as we've gotten deeper into the regular season, this 99 car has been shifting the tide quite a bit. He's been able to get things back on his side. He's been able to get a little more comfortable with this car, getting better runs as a result, and it's really nice to see, especially after Atlanta. We saw how good of a driver he was as he gets way sideways at a turn 7.
He's from Duval County, Florida, Kenneth, and I'm pretty sure he's trying to do what the 2022 Jacksonville Jaguars did, and that's after a terrible start, end up making the playoffs. If he's able to do that, I'm sure he'll be thrilled with it, and he'll hope to do something with it, much like those 22 Jaguars did, and that's get past the first round, which is going to be, of course, not the case here in our postseason because we don't have the playoff system anymore, but he certainly wants to make the most of the opportunity. But, of course, he has to get there first because this season, we mentioned in the pre-race, Kenneth, is extremely tight. So many guys are capable of making the top 14 that there's going to be some big names that get left out.
Forrester comes into this race 45 points out of the last spot in the playoffs, theoretically, which is 14th. As it stands, we'll keep an eye on what Forrester is able to do, especially as the Christmas break rolls around. We step into the new year and we get a lot of interesting tracks along the way where you'll see the likes of Darlington, Kansas, Indianapolis Raceway Park, which that's a conversation in its own right on how it's on the schedule, but we go on an Indy double week header with Indianapolis, the Oval right after. Just plenty of different venues, and a lot of them oval races that really will test the skill of every competitor in this series. And for the 2022 Jaguars, I really like that reference just because I know you're a fan of it. I know exactly what happened last season when they made that huge comeback run on, what was it, the Chargers? Huge comeback in the playoffs.
Yes, it was. It was a 27-point comeback. They were down 27-0 in the second quarter. And I still remember it, Kenneth. There's so many people leaving in the second quarter. I was so upset. I thought I drove 5 hours just to see Trevor Lawrence throw a bunch of interceptions in the first half. But they recovered, and they played an excellent second half, and that game-winning field goal by Riley Patterson definitely was fantastic. The whole stadium was cheering. But that's exactly the kind of performance Colin Forster's looking to have here because you just mentioned that he's 45 points out of the cut line. That's a lot, but it's something that he can make up if he starts to put in those results between now and Talladega at the end of the regular season.
I also think it's interesting, too, with the change to the Xfinity Series cars, it threw a lot of drivers off guard, right? Because you spend 2 seasons with the next-gen car, you're just getting comfortable with it, and Season 5 might have just been the best season in the next-gen car for Colin Forrester yet. Won a couple of races, was really a factor everywhere we went, regardless of what venue it was. But as soon as we make that switch to the Xfinity Series cars, bam, you've got a whole different change of scenery. And then for Forrester, it's all about just getting your reps with this car, making sure you can grow your skill set and be more well-rounded. And for Forrester, it's been nice to see that turnaround. Looks like the first car a lap down is going to be the league owner, Tyler Murray, sustaining heavy front-end damage on the left and right front of his Ford Mustang. He's going to let the second-place car by that is looking up in the 45, but we're going to try to diagnose exactly what happened to the 36 to get him this much damage early.
Yeah, not sure exactly what happened there, Kenneth. He wasn't too ecstatic about tonight's race going in. He's not exactly been a fan of the road courses in seasons past, but we'll just have to see exactly what led to the damage on the race car. Because normally that doesn't pick up without some kind of help, but so far here trying to get a look at what exactly occurred. We're not seeing anything quite yet. So I'm really having trouble trying to figure out exactly what led to the detriment of Tyler Murray's car. You see the damage is still there as he already let the leaders go, but we're not really sure how that happened.
We'll try and keep tabs of that. I was looking back on the replay and didn't really get a full situation review of what happened there with the 36, but he is a lap down, 29th on the racetrack. It appears we had one of our drivers not start the race that was scheduled to be on the grid. So 29 we're down to here at lap number 8. There was third place Chevrolet, Lawson Peel right behind, trying to get around. We'll keep an eye on what the 36 does, how he can rebound over this race, but that will hurt dearly there for Murray, Francisco, because like you mentioned, there is no competition caution. We're going these 55 laps green all the way unless there is a monumental track blocker that will force the race admins to decide to throw a yellow and bring the field to rest. But other than that, in that dire consequential situation, unless that happens, you will not find a yellow flag. So for Murray, this is going to be a big hole that he has to dig out of early at lap number 8.
Yeah, and this goes back to the playoff battle because Murray's there around the cut line area. If he finishes 29th here tonight, that's not exactly going to help his situation versus maybe getting a top 15 or a top 20. But there you see just ahead, another car that's almost getting ready to get lapped, probably was involved in some incident or maybe came down pit road. That's the 29 right there. That's Timothy Cook that's looking to go possibly one lap down here soon. And that's a position that Tyler Murray can gain. So he has to still stay aggressive and think about what to do. He still has to pit again one time before the end of this race. So there's not much he could do strategy-wise because he has to come back down pit road before the race is over.
It looks like for Cook, he pitted the same lap as Tyler Murray did, but he did not come into his stall. While Murray had a 12.5-second stop around 6 or so laps ago on lap number 2, Cook came down the same lap but just did not take any service. So it was just like a drive-through penalty there for Cook running there on the inside of the carousel. Leaders will approach him quickly in the likes of Brandon Hawken, who has separated himself by 2 seconds over fellow competitor Luke Knupp. And what a race it was last week to start off, Francisco, for the 98 of Hawken, who joins Skybox Racing, a pretty stacked group already when you think about Kevin D'Elia, Curtis Kelly, Adam Alashire, who picked up a win this season at Daytona, and then, of course, the rookie standout from Massachusetts, Ryan Pandiccio from Nexus Esports. Hawken was so happy despite the second place last week at Atlanta, and how could you not be happy to watch him on the track? He is so fast, so consistent, and tonight over 10 laps, it's been no different. It's been wonderful to watch.
Yeah, Skybox has found themselves a driver here in the 28 as Luke Knupp very sideways off of turn 1 you saw in the background there. But how about the driver of the 98, Kenneth? In Atlanta, he was very dominant, came home second place, just shy of a race win in his debut. And already here tonight at the road course is putting on an excellent performance, is really pulling away from the rest of the field from proven road racers. So Skybox has found themselves a driver, Kenneth, that could really help their odds in the team championship, which we haven't really talked about a lot this season because it's been dominated by KBueno Racing and DBR, whether it's DBR 1 or 2. But those two teams have been really strong all season long. They've kind of had a stranglehold on the Owners' Championship. But if the driver of the 98, Hawken, can perform and if Brian Pandiccio can continue to deliver the results that he has, those two can definitely help that team go up the order.
And for Skybox Racing, this is their first season in the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series collectively as a group. We've seen other teams for the likes of Kevin D'Elia, Curtis Kelly and them, but Skybox, the full effort really came together for the beginning of Season 6. And to have a driver like Brandon Hawken come in as a standout as he is and as great of a driver as he is in the sim could really boost the team morale and the confidence, put them on the map, like you said, in the midst of the DBRs and the Murray Beatty Motorsports and the BBRs of the world in 4Wide history. Skybox might be a team to be reckoned with the likes of Brandon Hawken putting a statement on to the rest of the field. He's up now by 2.9 seconds over Luke Knupp. That sideways moment for the 45 got him unsettled, losing him a ton of time. But speak of the 45, Francisco, and what he's been able to do this season, of course, one of the many rookies that we've seen as absolutely phenomenal and being able to be competitive right out of the gate. But the 45 has had a rather tumultuous season, and it all started at Nashville Superspeedway. Technically his first start, he was able to beat one of the best drivers in 4Wide Racing history, Lawson Peel, to the inside at Nashville Superspeedway in the winning laps to hold him off, get his first career win in just his first start. What an absolutely amazing achievement that was. But then came the downfall of the roller coaster, the drop. Phoenix Raceway, Francisco, where he led so much of the race, and unfortunately it fell short.
Those 2 weeks definitely represented what it's like to be a race car driver. The high of winning your first career race and then the lows of dominating the very next outing, but unfortunately losing out there in an incident just after the green flag pit stops. And it took him a while after a couple of struggling races or maybe performances he didn't want, but he makes the pass there on Brandon Hawken and takes the checkered flag at Atlanta in a good old-fashioned battle with strategy at a worn-out racetrack with the new updates, Kenneth, and he really used it to his advantage to take the victory there.
He only led 16 laps in that Atlanta race, but that was more than enough to secure the race victory, and he runs second here tonight. He hops through the bus stop. Looks like Lawson Peel is starting to close in, though, so the 45 might have to look a little further in that rear view mirror. So most of the field basically separated here as of lap number 12 of 55 early in the going here from Watkins Glen, and there's lap car Brandon Gillis on the inside of the carousel. Jaden Porter sizing up the 91 of Adam Alishire. Might be our first nice battle here for 7.
And on board with Jaden Porter, and doesn't look to have enough forward momentum to maybe make a move into turn 6 here, but he certainly wants to set himself up for turn 1 at the very least. You see he's going to go just a little bit lower in the corner than the car in front of him does. You see Alishire very loose. Porter's going to stay patient here. He's going to try and roll the corner a little bit better than that Toyota in front of him and see if he can try and poke out and make a move. But you see Alishire gets to drive off of turn 7, which could be the difference maker in terms of Porter trying to make a move.
Right on board with the NASCAR Technical Institute, number 91 of Adam Alishire. Talk about Skybox Racing. He's one of the favorites on that team. He'll let the 28 by, though. He's got way loose out of the 90, turn 1. He's going to let the defending champ through, and the 91 already struggling on the rear tires. And this will give you a very good look, Francisco, as to how tough it is to drive these Xfinity Series cars on an outrageously hot track temperature, only 13 laps in. This is a look from Scott Healy. Even if you listen in and use your eyes to take a look at that steering wheel, it is hectic in the race car.
Yeah, you're constantly working that wheel around this racetrack, Kenneth. Like I said, it looks like a simple racetrack because of the way it's shaped and the distance it is, but you are working it, especially with this race car. It's not an open wheel car where you kind of have to fling in and you have all the downforce to rely on. Here, you have to really use the weight of the car against itself to get it to go fast. So as we start the lap here with Scott Healy, let's do a lap around with him, go past the start-finish line, and you go downhill into turn 1. You see him get on the brakes there. You downshift all the way down, I would say, to second gear. This is a second gear corner with this race car. You want to go out all the way to these rumble strips and really angle yourself for turn 3 here. The closer you can get to those strips, there's a lot more grip to be found. You also widen out turn 3 right here to try and go as much throttle as you can. This is not really full throttle here, but you can test your luck, especially with the hot track temperatures. It's going to be very slick, and you go down to the back straightaway, the fastest part of the racetrack, and before you go into hard braking for the bus stop, you try and get as close as you can to that wall without really hitting it and jump over these curbs. Those are very fun to jump over, and then you have the very long carousel. You want to try and stay as close to the bottom here as you can. There's a lot of grip to be found, but also right here you can lose a lot of grip trying to put the throttle down, spin the rear tires, get very loose. You can use all that exit if you want to. He doesn't choose to do so there. The run down to turn 6 right there over the tunnel, you decide to go on the brakes, put it to the left side of the racetrack, and go as close as you can to the rumble strips, exit out wide, immediately go back left before angling yourself for the final corner. Make sure you don't get loose. It's very slick here at the exit of the final corner. Don't hit that safety barrier, and you drive back to the start-finish line to start another lap.
Oh, man. That is a lot of fun to watch. And look at the wheel for Scott Healy. It just shows you a demonstration of how tough it is to drive the car. Look how sideways he is. Even on the brake entry to turn 1, he'll let Kyle Benson reel him in. This battle potentially for 4th on the racetrack. That 64 is all over the place, and those rear tires are not having a lot of fun. Only 15 laps in. You can imagine the strategy is already in mind for most of the field. They want to get some Goodyear Eagles and fresh ones as quickly as they can. Speaking of reeling in, the 12 of Lawson Peel starting to close in on the 45 of Luke Knupp. He's within about a second on last week's winner from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Lawson, of course, the favorites at these road courses, Francisco. Only won one last season with the next-gen cars, but it was Watkins Glen that he took the checkered flag at in dominating fashion with his comeback strategy after starting, 23rd on the racing grid to start the race?
Yeah, he would not take qualifying, if you remember, in those road course races, Kenneth, and he would just pop up to the front out of nowhere within the first 10 laps of the race or so. So not the case here tonight. He did put down a qualifying time, so he started closer to the front of the field, but I think he did that knowing there wasn't going to be competition cautions to help stir up the strategy and give him a break to gain some more positions if he didn't get there by then. He also realizes that the competition this season is a lot stiffer, so he has to put up his best effort in qualifying, so he's not on the back foot and doesn't lose out on very valuable points. You see him right now having started third. He still runs in the third position, so he hasn't really gained any positions so far in the race. And if you look at the gap up to the race leader, it's 6 seconds from where Lawson Peel currently is. He's 6 seconds off Brandon Hawkins for the race lead. There's Hawkins, who's approaching some lap traffic, while Luke Knupp has fallen off just a little bit compared to your race leader. Peel has done so just a little bit less, and that's why he's gaining on your second place driver.
And let's look at the gap between the 45 and the 12. Different lines they're running as well at the entry and exit of the carousel. Downhill, technically turn 5, going down to turns 6 and 7 here. This left and right-hander to close off the lap from the Glen. The Columbus, Mississippi native of Lawson Peel was one of the biggest movers last week at Atlanta. Started 19th. Did not have a lot of fun working through the field, but it became fun later in the race, and it certainly paid off. Came up with that third-place finish on significantly older tires. Couldn't beat Luke Knupp on the tire game to the checkered flag, but as Lawson Peel works through Season 6, consistency has been the name of the game, and very rarely do we see this 12 car on the back foot anywhere on strategy or just based on bad luck entirely. But the 12 car, always a factor to watch for, especially on these road course races. Look at the Stocks Motorsports drivers, Lance Hill and Colin Forrester, now going side by side to turn 1. That one car was out of shape coming out of the final corner, has a bit of right front damage on his Toyota Supra, and here comes his teammate for the taking.
I think what best describes Lawson Peel's season so far this season, Kenneth, at least compared to the previous two, is that it's not pretty, but it's gritty. He's put in that effort, and he's definitely done a lot of hard work to get those results, even though it doesn't look as pretty as it was those first 2 seasons with the next-gen cars where he was winning 7 races each season. He only has 2 so far in this one, but like I said, he's definitely putting in a lot of work, and he's still getting some pretty decent results. So while it's not show-stopping Broadway efforts, it's still very solid Nashville downtown efforts.
I like that comparison. Not pretty, but gritty.
It was original.
Yeah, and the Peel, I mean, that's perfectly describable for Peel's season so far. Hasn't been the best looking as the 3-car gets turned, entering turn 6 by the 53 of Kevin D'Elia. The 3-car goes sideways, and the entire field gets by without hitting him. But Eric Schaefer, the points leader, in trouble at lap 18.
And he spins it back around to go into the proper direction. He's going to lose a bunch of positions here, Kenneth. Schaefer had been getting loose for most of this run. He started up inside the top 10. He had fallen down the order, and it looks like he had gotten very loose off of turn 6. Here comes Kevin D'Elia, and looks like he just breaks that a little bit later, also gets into the grass, but gets into the back of Eric Schaefer. Schaefer spins around, and you see with traffic coming in front of him, decides not to immediately turn the car around. D'Elia himself almost spins the car out after the contact when he got out for turn 6. So here we are on board with Kevin D'Elia. He's going to brake, and just breaks that a little bit later than the 3-car. Probably wasn't expecting him to spin that late. Goes around the outside. You see just how loose he gets just trying to keep it under control after having that incident happen. Fortunately, nobody else was involved and no real damage to anybody.
And there's the 3-car, tracked in 19th as a result of that spin. Kevin D'Elia, as a result, has stayed around the 9th place position. It looks like Lance Hill also had a bit of a moment. He has dropped back from his teammates Colin Forrester and AJ Green, who were around him at the latter half of the top 10. So not good news there at this stage of the race for both Schaefer nor for Lance Hill. Looks like we have our first attempt at green flag stops, and here comes the 12, Lawson Peel, in at lap 19.
This is the 2-stop strategy group right here, because you're going to try and go again to possibly around lap 39, which should take you to the end of the race safely. So there you see the right sides are now going up on the 12 car. And this is all in an effort to possibly jump that 45, I believe, get those fresh tires, do the undercut, and get in front of him, get that track position, and see what he can do to close the gap on Brandon Hawkins. He's going to exit into some traffic. He's going to be side-by-side with Lance Hill going up into turn 2. And very crucially, Kenneth, look how loose the Trevor Haley machine is. I'm sorry, not Lance Hill, but he gets in front of that traffic, Kenneth. He's not going to lose time as there is contact between Trevor Haley and the 0 of Jesse Freeze.
Oh, they hit-checked each other, and the 0 went sideways before keeping it straight. Trevor Haley and company getting into it through the S's up the hill. They also involved the 71 of Curtis Kelly on the way up there. And luckily enough, the 12 car escapes a bullet from these three getting into each other, and they all single file out. Want to exactly diagnose what happened to Adam Alashar, who's gone 5 laps down, and he has pretty heavy damage on his number 91 Toyota Supra. So we'll see exactly whether this was a long time ago that it happened. Looks like it was lap 15 that the 91 found himself in trouble, and here it was right in front of Lance Hill.
Oh, and that's probably why Lance Hill ended up where he was, Kenneth, because look at the damage that he got on the front end. It definitely was going to slow down his race car. So Alashar, and I mentioned this, Kenneth, when you go through this section, it's very hard on the throttle. The tires wear incredibly here, extreme wear on the rear tires. And then right here, if you try to go full throttle in this part of the racetrack, you could lose the car. That's exactly what happened to Alashar.
This is not going to be a good points day for Adam Alashar at all. He is 28th right now, came off of a 20th place finish at Atlanta Motor Speedway just last Wednesday. So it has not been the prettiest last couple of weeks for the 91. Here's your race leader, the 98, Brandon Hawken, into pit road.
Nice, clean effort on the pit road. We'll see what the drivers behind decide to do, as looks like the 45 has already pitted and does maintain the position on the 12 of Lawson Peel. But look how much closer Peel is with the undercut. Luke Knupp has 1 lap fresher tires, and until they warm up, I think he'll be under fire from the 12 car, at least in the short run. On the long run, we'll see if Luke Knupp saves his tires just that little bit better to try and hold off any late run charges by the 45. And here's now Scott Healy and Craig Lounslager onto pit road, as it looks like Brandon Hawken is going to exit the pit lane any moment now. There you see him there at the end on the first pit stall. And the jacks dropped on his car, so he's on his way now, Kenneth. Colin Forster is going to take over the race lead, as he has not come down pit road. And it looks like Brandon Hawken is going to exit and actually get ahead of Forster by pit exit. So Forster does not get the race lead. And there you see just a little bit further back, there's the 45 all the way back there behind Ryan Pandisci, who has also not come down pit road. So it looks like, all in all, Brandon Hawken has kind of maintained that 4.5, 5 second lead he had before pit stops.
For Forster and Pandiscio, they will come in still, because they are not yet the drivers who have come down to the pit lane, so they'll still need some service. They'll lose a lot of ground here, though, on Knupp and, of course, to Lawson Peel. Now, will the 45 get held up?
Contact.
He's giving the bumper to the 63, forcing him up the hill at the carousel, and that will help the 12 of Lawson Peel. The 45 way loose coming out of the carousel this time.
And I think he did that because he doesn't want Lawson Peel to close the gap on himself, but in the process, it kind of gave Peel an easier pass opportunity on Pandiscio compared to what the 45 had. But obviously, he felt that he didn't want to lose that time. And in the end, they both get past him anyways. But they're going to have to negotiate around Forster as Pandiscio comes to pit road. Forster stays out for another lap, Kenneth. So I'm wondering, is Forster attempting a one-stop here?
It might be interesting to see what the 99 can do, but it's more of a question of how much ground is he going to lose now that all the fresh tire cars are around him. As far as the leaders are concerned, Kyle Benson is still very far from these guys at around 8.2 seconds from Lawson Peel. This 99 car really has to tread carefully here on these tough waters, especially with this 45 and the 12 hot on his heels. There's the 12, big run out of the S's up the hill. He'll get to the outside of the 45, entering the bus stop. He'll single file out before, think smarter of it. They remain behind this Aaron's Dream Machine in the 99, but this is prime opportunity for Lawson Peel to take second for the first time tonight. He's got a nose underneath.
And it started all the way back off of turn 1. The 45 tried to make an opportunistic move in the S's, but lost a lot of time in the process, swinging out wide. And unfortunately for him, it led to the 12 attacking him going into the bus stop. They ended up working that out, but now both of them have gotten past Forster as Luke Knupp got the run off of the carousel. And Luke Knupp has been using up those rear tires, Kenneth. It has not been kind. Looking at sliding again off the final corner. No real tire saving going on there for the 45. He's in a heated battle with Lawson Peel for the second position.
But if he continues to get that car loose, that 12 is only going to beat him on tire saving alone. 45 doesn't want to push this car too aggressively in a way to defend, but ultimately will give way to the 12 as the run progresses. But as of the moment, it's Brandon Hawken by 7.2 seconds over the rest of the field and counting. He has been the dominant driver of the day. Can anyone beat him here from Watkins Glen? We'll take a short break and step aside, but you won't miss coverage of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series and Season 6 action from Watkins Glen, New York.
Racing isn't easy. but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
wanted the best, you got them for a rest. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws! Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
It's the thirstiest time of the year. I have just one query.
Want a Sprite cranberry?
The answer is clear. It's the thirstiest time of the year. Sprite, let's go.
Welcome back to Watkins Glen International. Coverage of the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series is brought to you by iRacing. Get your sim racing career started today at iRacing.com. By TJ's Team. To learn more about the Foundation's mission to end pediatric cancer, go to wheremorethanacake.org. And by Paul's Setup Shop. One word to describe the way this race has gone so far, over 27 of the 55 laps here at Watkins Glen. Brandon Hawken has been flying since the drop of the green after starting on pole. He leads this race by 8.5 seconds over the next driver in line. Last week's race winner, Luke Knupp in the 45, having to try and hold up the Season 4 champion, Lawson Peel, back in third. Kenneth Bueno, Francisco Bacallao with you for the action here on the KBueno Racing Network. So happy to have you join us on our first road course race of the season. And Francisco, hot track temp, a lot of tire wear, lots of green flag strategy, some lap racing here and there. Brandon Hawken dominating. What has stood out to you the most so far?
It's been impressive how these guys have navigated around the racetrack and haven't really had that many issues. We've only maybe seen 2 or 3 instances of trouble throughout the field. So a very clean, despite the very tricky conditions these guys are facing. But also Brandon Hawkin, how about that? He's led over 25 laps in this race so far. As we are about halfway through the race, Kenneth, it's been very impressive to see the drive he's put on. He's got lap traffic you see in front of him, so he's got to navigate it. He has a big lead, so he can be patient, but it's still going to cost him a little bit of time. Looking up, they're battling with Lawson Peel there for a few laps after the pit stop is starting to put a bit of a gap on him. So now he can try and focus on what he can do to catch up to this 98. It's a big gap, but at least now he has nothing to worry about out from behind and can focus on what to do to get up here.
And we've been watching this 98 just absolutely stop the field so far. He's approaching a heap of lap traffic. That is the 4-car, Trevor Haley in his black and green Spotify Ford Mustang. And then up the road would be the 00 of Jesse Preece, and then right in front, the 36 of Tyler Murray, who has done a fantastic job of staying at least a lap down and ensuring that he can at least stay there, gain some points over 3 of the DNFs tonight, Timothy Cook, Adam Alashire, and the 14 of Jeff No, and possibly, maybe, get a wave around. If a big caution arises at this point in the race, still a big possibility, only 28 laps in. But this 98 car has yet to be beaten. Luke Knupp was the driver to do it last week, but he is still far off the road. Him, Lawson Peel round out the rest of this top 3. Might have a really good battle building for position number 5. Yes, we do. Scott Healy underneath Ethan Fonseca Moreno into turn 6.
And Ethan's going to give it to him. You see him break just that little bit earlier. He'll tuck in, so move Scott Healy back up into the top 5. Ethan Fonseca has kind of started up in the 4th spot, dropped down to 6th at the end of lap 1, and he's kind of been there for most of the run, so that's just kind of where the car is. You see Kyle Benson a little bit further up the road, but there's just a big gap from 6th on backwards, so this is just kind of the battle these guys are in amongst with each other to see if they can finish somewhere inside the top 5. We'll see how it shakes out between now and the end of the race, but here's Kyle Benson running in the 4th spot, Kenneth. Another quiet evening for the driver of the 38. We've seen this a lot out of him in the last couple of seasons. He's not really going to be flashy. His name might show up once or twice, but he'll be there in the top 5 somewhere.
A great rebound as well from Atlanta that he's building up. He finished 18th in that race after starting in the top 5. And here at Watkins Glen, might call it a bit of his bread and butter. He led 18 laps at this track from the pole last season, and while he didn't get the win, it was still a great race to talk about for the Murray Reedy Motorsports number 38, sponsored by Dude Wipes here on his Ford Mustang tonight. So for Benson, this would be a great points evening. Really no chaos, no hecticness, just run your race as calmly and as quietly as you can, and just move on to the All-Star break at North Wilkesboro before we get to the new year and the next race, which should be a really big challenge for the points-paying drivers at Darlington Raceway in South Carolina. Now, to update, and Francisco, we were talking about it a bit under the commercial break that we were on just a couple of laps ago. Colin Forster had stayed out and looked for a halfway one-stop strategy. He's already pitted. He pitted about 3 or so laps ago at a 14.4-second stop. Not entirely sure if this will work out, but Francisco, you believe that it's more just a bigger picture approach here for the 99 tonight.
Yeah, he definitely tried something there because he went significantly longer than everybody, so it's definitely a shot in the dark in terms of just trying to see something, because he started in the 10th spot, didn't really make any electric moves early on in the race, so he was kind of running around that edge of the top 10 position. So I think Colin Forster sees it as an opportunity to try something different. Now he's off strategy with better tires than most of the cars around him, so he's going to gain a little bit of time back. The rest of the field should come down to pit road in about 10 or so laps to complete their second pit stop, and that leaves Colin Forster out with a chance to get a possible top 5 or so finish. Certainly an attempt to gain a couple of more points than what he would have if he played follow the leader.
So Forster looking to do something alternatively. Not sure if it'll work, but there's still a lot of time. 24 laps left from the Glen, so the 99 can pull some other strategy out the bag as everyone will come down pit road. And really good insight, Francisco, on what this 99 car is doing. And earlier in the race, we talked about stories of coming back throughout the season, getting used to this Xfinity Series car, and running with it as soon as they got used to it. Well, here's another prime example of that right here. The 34 of Austin Reedy has quietly moved inside the top 10. He has not rescinded his position all that much. We ride on board with his number 34 Ford Mustang entering turn 1. He started tonight 21st on the grid, and he is up to 8th place. A wonderful 13. Looks like 13 spots gained for the driver
And you
of
think
the
about
44.
And you think about how the season started for Austin Reed. It started with the DNF at Auto Club, and there was just a couple of more that followed it in the coming races, Kenneth. So it's been an excellent turnaround for Austin Reed. We've seen him have stretches of races where he's had these struggles, where he has this bad luck, or just stretches where it just doesn't go his way. But there's also stretches where we see Austin Reed show what he's done in the past, back in the Season 2, Season 3s of this series, where he's been able to win races and go out there and look like a championship contender. It's not been quite the same this season, Kenneth, but he does show those flashes from time to time, and he does appear to try and make an effort to get into the playoffs. And they see behind him Craig Lounslugger sporting a familiar look to the Watkins Glen circuit. And yes, you're not seeing that wrong. That is a Marcos Ambrose paint scheme. He tried to get a little bit of luck that won here twice, and there he is with a throwback, we'll call it, to Marcos Ambrose and his 2 victories here at Watkins Glen in 2011, 2012. And I remember that finish, Kenneth, that 2012 finish, and a lot of people love that finish, but I have my reasons why I don't.
It's certain colorful rainbowed M&M's car
Yeah.
going sideways on this corner right here, turn 3 or turn 2.
And still finishing 6th.
Yeah, that wonderful race. I remember watching that on TV and just being blown away at not only the road course skill of Marcos Ambrose, but the way Keselowski was able to hold on with him, and how crazy it was to the end, and the bus stop when they were skipping through the grass, and even all the commentators couldn't believe it. They're like, everyone's in the grass. And they were just having a whale of a time. And a beautiful paint scheme for Craig Lounslugger. Honestly, one of my favorite paint schemes in NASCAR. Just that RPM, number 9, Marcos Ambrose, Stanley DeWalt machine, all-time classic in my eyes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you there, Kenneth. And Watkins Glen with this paint scheme, it's been very historical. He tried to go for the 3-peat in 2013, but got caught up in a crash there near the end of the race. But still, regardless, Marcos did an excellent job here at this racetrack and road courses. And we see one of his V8 supercar friends joining over to the NASCAR. We got SVG joining the Xfinity Series full-time next season, which was announced earlier today. He's going to be doing a couple of cup races. So after getting that win in the Chicago Street Course, Kenneth, it looks like he's going to be trying to make his way into NASCAR.
Yeah, the Australian supercar scene is certainly starting to make the move to the United States. And while, of course, SVG is a Kiwi, he's from New Zealand. He's from Auckland, as a matter of fact. Still races in that Australian scene, and it's going to be so exciting to see him take the NASCAR field by storm in the Xfinity Series. Arguably the most competitive series in NASCAR right now, even more so than the Cup Series, based on the parity and all the different drivers and the flourishing teams in the series too. A lot of new ones, a lot of new drivers, and I know Joe Gibbs also announced a huge lineup change for the Xfinity Series, including Eric Almirola, who just retired from the Cup Series action for Stewart-Haas Racing. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see what the Xfinity Series in real life is cooking up for next year.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, Kenneth, and I can't wait to go to some races myself. I have a couple of races on my calendar. For sure, obviously, the Homestead Miami Speedway. I can't wait to go back there. Looking to make some plans to go to the Bristol night races for all 3 series. That's going to be a blast, and we'll just see what opportunities arise to go to some other venues. I hope to see if I can go to some new racetracks. I'll see if I go back to the 600 once again. That was and hopefully I don't experience rain this time.
Oh yeah, hopefully. Rain is always a terrible factor in everything. And yeah, I'd love to go to the 600 too. That's certainly a bucket list race. That and Darlington, those 2 tracks.
It was fun. Darlington was fun as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, the track is so tough to drive. Speaking of which, that's going to be our next points paying race, by the way. So on January 10th, you'll see a very cool Darlington race with these Xfinity Series cars in the sim, and obviously in real life, going to make those plans to go there as well. Speaking of Darlington, Francisco, let's talk about that broadcast for just a quick moment as we watch this half-a-second battle for 4th between Kyle Benson and Scott Healy. For those watching on the KBueno Racing Network right now, if you don't know about the history of KBRN, certainly not going to be surprised that a lot of people don't, but to fill you in, when we started back in 2020, it was me and one of my friends from Illinois, one that is very dear to my heart, very dear to us at the KBueno Racing Network. Charlie Byer was our initial producer for all of our shows until I got a better computer and I could actually stream a broadcast that's actually worth a decent quality. But Charlie was instrumental in helping KBueno Racing Network grow, as well as Keelan Belsha, commentator on a lot of events, whether it be WARC or whether it be the Quick Time dirt series that we held on KBueno Racing Network just a couple of years ago. Also been a very big part of our growth here at this channel. And as we have already christened our 3-year anniversary of the channel, we're approaching 4 next April. We want to do something very special, Francisco. We want to invite all of the classic commentators, all of the classic members of the KBueno Racing Network, band them all together for one race of this series here at Darlington, and just have a lot of fun while we watch these guys go at it on track.
Giving the true proper throwback feel along with the drivers. It's the first time we get to do something like that, Kenneth, and I'm very excited for it. Charlie and Keelan, they're fantastic guys. They helped you grow the channel when it was just first getting started before you and I took off and running with it truly in 2021 and therefore onwards. But those guys, they were instrumental to the key growth for not just the channel but you as well, getting your feet wet with the commentary here and with several iRacing leagues. So I know that's very important to you, and also a throwback to IQSSL. I know that you remember that, and calling some of those pre-race shows there. So just so many memories associated with the channel and a time when it was rising up. I'm sure that Darlington's going to be fantastic, and they're looking forward to it too. They're getting their notes filled up on as far as the 4-wide racing series is concerned, because they want to get it here and also know what they're talking about. So I'm sure they're excited for next month's appearance at the Darlington Raceway on January 10th.
I just got to say that without Charlie and Keelan's contributions as friends, as people, and as colleagues on the KBueno Racing Network, including yours as well, Francisco, on and off the sim and on and off broadcasting, I would not be in the position I am today. So I certainly am appreciative of everyone's efforts that have gone into the KBueno Racing Network, and who knows, maybe we could have some more guests on the way. Wink, wink, some in mind. Glen Bundren, owner of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series, one of our first series that we successfully broadcasted on this channel, apart from the Trexco Arga League that basically kickstarted everything back in early 2020. We're going to walk through memory lane, and if you don't know the stories, you're going to see them happen and see them told in real time as the race develops. So tune in January 10th. That's a Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll have the whole gang here on the KBueno Racing Network as we celebrate the 3rd anniversary. Watch this battle for 16th. Entering the bus stop here, Francisco. This is Curtis Kelly, Lance Hill, and Luke Canup, the 2nd place car, getting through the hurricane.
Luke Canup is in the hornet's nest right now. You see him just barely getting by some of this lap traffic, and it goes to show the pace the leaders have. They're lapping almost up towards the top 10. And you see a damage on Lance Hill's car from earlier as Luke Canup gets very sideways, almost ends up in the right-hand side of the racetrack where the grass is, and he's able to keep it going. A very close call there, and there you see Lawson Peel's already made that pit stop. You remember, he pitted a lap sooner than most of his competitors. Luke Canup has lost ground to your race leader. He's about 13.5 seconds off, but there's your 12th car looking to once again try the undercut strategy to get ahead of the competition. He'll exit pit road in 9th, just ahead of Kevin D'Elia. But we'll see where he cycles out compared to the 45 of Luke Canup. And there's Benson, who's in the pit road. Scott Healy is as well. He's able to just barely get it down to pit road speed. But it looks like the 45 of Luke Canup will stay out. So will the 43 of Ethan Fonseca, trying something different than the 38 and the 64 to try and gain positions on them.
Here come the BBR cars, the Toyota and the Chevrolet, staying out the extra lap. Kyle Benson and Scott Healy, who were at once sort of enemies fighting for position, now they're going to be nose to tail on pit road. Looks like both of them overshoot their pit stall. So the 64 and the 38, costly mistake. It's going to lose them a lot of time. And there's Craig Parks in the background coming in. He also overshoots his pit stall. The 34 of Austin Reedy is in. Might have been the cleanest stop for him on the entry. And there's the exit out of pit road for Benson and for Healy.
Looks like everybody's missing their marks. It's like they're like treating it like the people do with stop signs here, Kenneth.
Oh, yeah, they're going over the line, and they do not care, but it's going to lose them time in return. There's Kevin D'Elia on pit road, the 34 of Reedy, as we mentioned. He makes his exit right behind Craig Parks. And there comes, in the background, the 45 of Luke Canup. So the 2nd place car is in.
He's in on pit road, and Brandon Hawken has yet to come down pit road. So he's going to wait this one out, Brandon Hawken is. And he has the gap to do so. He's able to hold out, get the fresh tires to the end of the run, and that way he has nothing to worry about, has nothing to think about. Just make the easy strategy call, and that's to defend with better tires for the remaining run of this race. He has the lead already. There's Colin Forster just in front of him. Ethan Fonseca is going to stay out another lap, Kenneth, so he's trying to see if he can use better tires in the closing run in his battle with Kyle Benson and Scott Healy, who you remember both overshot their pit stall, so it helps him gain some semblance of time. But if he stays out too long, he could lose a lot more. And how about Jaden Porter, Kenneth? He's ran a really quiet race. He's been in the 7th position most of the evening, about 10 to 15 seconds off of Ethan Fonseca, but a couple seconds away from 8th place cars. And there he is coming down pit road. He's in his pit stall right now. So Jaden Porter, a very quiet evening, Kenneth, but it's looking to be one of his better runs of the season.
The 28 car just being effective on this road course race, making the most of his opportunity, as Craig Launslager is going to come in right behind him. So they're all going to enter the pit lane. Looks like for the 98 of Brandon Hawken, he is in. So the race leader just forfeits his positioning to head to pit road. We'll watch exactly what the 43 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno will do. He hooks it to the right. He's going to slow down, hop on the binders. He enters the lane as well. Locks up the brakes quite a bit. Looks like he will make pit road speed limit without any dire consequences. Now, all in this, the 12 of Lawson Peel is coming out of turns 6 and 7. Lukenup is right behind him on 1 lap fresher tires. And theoretically, the 12 could be in position to take away the lead. But Brandon Hawken is right out of pit road in turn 1. And he's got a good amount of time back to the 12 car.
Yeah, he had a really big lead before pit stops, Kenneth. So it wasn't really in question as far as if he was going to keep it. He's certainly going to keep a very big gap back to the rest of the field. And then there you see Ethan Fonseca on pit road. The jack will drop and car's not exiting. Actually, there it goes. It drops now. It actually just had picked up. So now he's going to exit the pit lane. And we'll see where he merges relative to that competition he was racing. There you see the 42 of Christopher Bishop, who's a lap down. There's Trevor Haley. And I believe we saw the 64 Peely just up the road. It's going to be just up here off of turn 3. And indeed, there he is. And he's right behind Kyle Benson. There's some traffic up ahead with Michael Newbraw, Tyler Murray, Lance Hill, a couple of damaged race cars. And this is not going to be pretty going into the bus stop. You see that Newbraw gives way, though. So it ends up being a lot cleaner than what it could have been. But those two right there battling for position. Ethan Fonseca will have about 2 lap pressure tires. So we'll see what he's able to do in the battle against them. But looking up, trying to do his best to end up in second, because these are the battles inside the top 5 right now, Kenneth. Brandon Hawken absolutely driven away from it, and with blistering pace, because he's almost lapped up into the top 10.
And he lapped Colin Forrester for a moment, which was huge for the 99, because we know he's on that one-stop strategy, and he's into 7th. Coming out of Carousel now as a result of that one stop. We should not expect car number 99 to enter the pit lane anytime soon. He's got Jaden Porter right behind him. Austin Reedy is further down the road, about 2.2 seconds off of Jaden Porter in 8th. Both of them on fresh tires, so the 99 has to watch his back a little. We'll see what he does as he comes out of turn 7. Looks like he'll stay the extra lap. He's committed to that strategy 150%. Look at the great battle here for second. Again, looking up on the fresher rubber, Lawson Peel trying to hold on to the carousel.
And he had an excellent entry. You saw how much time Luke Up was able to gain there. Entering the bus stop was a lot more aggressive on the curbs, trying to hop through them as much as he can. Peel's going to get a little bit wide, and there you see Luke Up is going to have a run going down to turn 6, so it's going to present himself an opportunity to make a move. Peel's going to go defensive, but Luke Up will go even lower on the racetrack. The 12 is going to turn into the corner, does not get hit by the 45, and will keep the spot for now. We'll see if Luke Up tries to do something into turn 1. Peel's going to go deep into turn 7. He's going to wash up on the racetrack on corner exit, and there we go, down to turn 1. Does Luke Up try and make a move once again? Peel's going to stay at the racing line, and down to turn 1. No moves being made by the driver of the 45. Peel will go defensive, though, so we get another lap of this action.
The 45 gets a big run out of turn 1, so he'll look up the hill, up the gears on the 12 car, and he might just unleash this move on that back straightaway, heading for the bus stop, and it could easily force Peel into a situation where he has to back out if he wants to stay alive coming out of that corner. And here comes Knupp, big run on the draft. He peeks inside on the 12, though out the brakes for the entrance of the bus stop and hopping over the curbs. 45 gets into the 12, gets him way out of shape, skipping through the grass and to the inside through the carousel. Still no move yet. Luke Knupp cannot complete the pass.
And I think I know exactly what happened there, Kenneth. I think the 12 hit the curb just a bit odd compared to the 45, and he had to slow down in the middle of the corner. But there you see he goes wide off the corner. Luke Knupp has momentum. He's on the outside going into turn 6. The 12 is going to break a little bit later. He gets onto the curb. He's going to push out into the 45. Almost makes contact. Almost spins out. He ends up in the grass, but he saves it and keeps the 3rd spot. What a save there by Lawson Peel in an effort to try and keep P2. but the 45 with Luke Knupp will get past.
That could have been disastrous there for Lawson Peel. Got into that grass, and I could have thought his race might have been over, going right into those barrels at the exit of turn 7. He keeps it straight. Absolutely great effort to keep that car collected, but Luke Knupp is going to win this war. He'll fight to second. He'll be 13.8 seconds back of your race leader, Brandon Hawkins, with 13 laps to go. So looks like it's Brandon Hawkins' race to lose right now. Other best battle on the racetrack, well, we talked about it earlier. Kyle Benson in the 38 and Scott Healy in the 64. Still no decision between these two. They've got Ethan Fonseca Moreno creeping up behind them slowly but surely. So it might be a 3-horse fight for position number 4. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I was going to say, don't just give it to one of these two yet, because Ethan Fonseca is going to make a decision for them with those fresher tires. Look how much he's gaining already there in just that bus stop right now. So with approaching 12 laps to go in this race, don't count out that 43 on getting a P4 finish here and really helping the point situation for KBueno Racing in the Owners' Championship, which has been a solid night for them with the struggles that Eric Schaefer faced after getting spun around and losing a couple of positions. He's had a pretty solid recovery, Kenneth, driving up a couple more positions, but still, it's not as good as it could have been. He's driven up to 16th. He's a lap down right now. We definitely feel he could have been up the order, possibly in the top 10. So we'll see if that team can pick up the points to try and cut that gap, because whilst they've been the most successful team as far as winning races, DBR has been more consistent in the points, and that's why they've been leading the points. Really, if you think about it, Kenneth, for most of the entire season, if not the entire season, and they've just held that little bit of an advantage on KBueno Racing consistently, but never by much. So it's just a matter of which team can get the edge at the right time. And I believe right now it's the gap is as close as it's ever been. Not quite able to see it right now. It's showing me the driver standings, but it does appear that KBueno Racing is starting to close the gap. They're 68 behind Drinking Bros Racing, so it's kind of been where it's at for most of the season. But if they're able to keep pulling off races like today, then they should be able to close that gap in more as the playoffs roll around.
And still a lot of regular season racing left for sure before we get to the start of the playoffs. So no doubt, a lot of time for KBueno Racing to get back into the conversation for the win in the team standings by the end of the season and entering the new year. And as Moreno continues to close in his last lap, a 1:14.506. For Scott Healy, it was a 1:14.898, and that is the difference on 2-lap pressure tires. Ethan Fonseca Moreno is charging hard here in these last 10 laps to make possibly a 2-for-1 happen and get into 4th. And what a night it would be for Moreno if he can do that.
It would be an excellent night, considering that he started off losing positions on the start of the race. He had started 4th, so if he's able to finish 4th, he'll finish where he started, but not the way he expected it to. He's about 14 or so seconds off of Lawson Peel, so I don't expect him to drive up to P3. But if he can get up to P4, it's certainly going to make his night feel a little bit better, as there you see Colin Forster trying to hold off Craig Lounslager, but Lounslager will get past. And there's another car behind the 99 that looks to be Kevin D'Elia. So Colin Forster on those old tires has not come down pit road once again, is trying not to. But right now he is suffering on those old tires, Kenneth. We've ran 45 laps here, Kenneth. A lot of slipping and sliding. The track temperature remains hot. I'm not sure exactly what it is right now. It started at 123, if you remember. And there you see it right now. It stayed at 123. Wow, that is very impressive that it has not changed at all, Kenneth. The wind is the same. Everything has basically stayed the same since the start of the race. So nothing has cooled down on this racetrack. It's still just as blistering.
Really hard to drive for Scott Healy early in the race, but looks like he's picked up the pace as the event has rolled through the 64, closest we've seen him to the back bumper of the 38. Keep in mind that looming number 43 in the distance, so it could necessarily be a 3-car race with under 10 laps to go for 4th place, as Kyle Benson has had the most consistent night out of anyone other than really Brandon Hawkins, Luke Knupp, and Lawson Peel. And Scott Healy, Moreno are trying to spoil the party here as we approach 9 laps to go. This gap now at almost 15 seconds for the lead. There is Brandon Hawkins. He'll try to get around Ryan Pandiscio. Will put him a lap down, and Francisco, that will make it 12 cars on the lead lap if this 98 can get past the 63, his teammate.
It's an impressive pace that the driver of the 98's been able to put up here tonight. We've seen guys be dominant at road courses, and in the last couple of seasons, we haven't seen the winning margin be a lot. So and a part of that has been with the competition cautions, but this is a return to what we were used to seeing beforehand. But that's not to say that the racing has not been good, Kenneth, because it has been fantastic, just as good as with the next gen in some moments. A lot of field spread, but certainly the guys are putting in the effort, are having to work the car around, and with the hot track temperatures, it is making it fun to watch, and just goes to show how impressive it is to put on drives like Brandon Hawkins able to do in hopes of trying to catch his first career win in the 4-Wide Racing Series. And there you see the 13 of Lounslonger with smoke coming out of the race car. It looks like possibly had an issue there coming out of the carousel. You see some front end damage there and some right side damage. Big contact with the driver of the 13. We'll get a look and see exactly what happened, but you get a feeling he probably got loose here off of turn 6, or turn 5, excuse me, off the carousel, and indeed so. He gets loose off of the carousel, and he's going to spin and hit the inside wall, and he hit it hard enough to cause damage to this race car, so it's not going to be the result he wanted. There you see him slam the guardrail, and he ends up having a trail of smoke coming out the rear of the race car. It looks like something happened somewhere early in the corner, Kenneth. I'm not sure if we can get an onboard look inside the car to see what happens from the steering wheel angle. So there we are now. So let's see what happens. He's going through the bus stop. Everything seems to be normal, but the car shakes here. I'm not sure if it was controlled or what occurred, but something right around there. You see something happens right there. I can't tell if he was on the throttle or not, but either way, something happens and the car just spins out, and he has to drive it back to pit road, has smoke coming out of it. That's going to do it for his night, Kenneth. So there goes any chunk of points he was hoping to gain.
So tough for that Marcos Ambrose, number 13 for Murray Beatty Motorsports in that Ford Mustang. And for Lounslonger, yeah, it looked like the car just bogged down as it was coming out of the carousel. And I'm not entirely sure whether that's a hardware issue, software issue, or maybe just something else that happened, but it doesn't appear like it was a mechanical problem for the 13. Engine appeared to be revving just fine. He didn't money shift the race car, so it's not like there was something intentionally that Lounslonger did to gain extra speed that unfortunately just destroyed the engine. It just appeared that the car didn't act the way it wanted to. Lounslonger was trying to figure it out. The throttle came right back in at the exit of the carousel. And on these rear-wheel drive Xfinity Series cars, that means a spin on a hot track temperature. So for the 13, his night is done. He becomes the 5th driver to DNF here from Watkins Glen, New York. Benson has been able to pull away quite a bit on the driver of the 64, but that loose moment out of the final corner will bring the 64 just a little inch closer there to the 38. And that 43 has been picking it up lap after lap. He was a little slower last time compared to Healy. The 3 cars are here, nose to tail.
Yeah, they're all there, and all it takes is one mistake to really open up any opportunities for passing. And there you see as they go up the S's and they're going to head down the back straightaway. It looks like the 38 had a better S's, and he's going to pull away from Scott Healy going into the bus stop. He'll have an advantage, but we'll see just what happens in the second half of the racetrack, where we've seen the 64 look a little bit faster than 38, and you see the 38 a little bit wider. That allows Scott Healy to make a move. He's going to look to the inside going into the carousel, does not take advantage of it, not there, but he's going to try and angle the exit a little bit better to see if he can do anything in 6 and 7. There you see the 38 is going to get loose once again. So Scott Healy will have a slight run at Kyle Benson, but I'm not sure if it's enough to make a move. All the while, Ethan Fonseca just sits there and watches those two do away.
Needs to be very patient here, Francisco. Is there a proper way to get by these two? If you're this 43, you know you're on fresher tires, but you've started to even out here coming to 5 laps to go.
If this was me, I would probably just sit here and watch. In the meantime, just allowing them to do away with their tires. And any kind of opportunity that presents itself as far as them making a mistake, you have to take the opportunity to get the track position. So if someone goes wide, if someone clips the grass, and you're coming at them at a rate of knots, you have to do what you can to get the track position, because you might not get that opportunity again.
So here's the gap. Back to Scott Healy. 0.6 of a second is growing quite a bit, but they are encountering lap traffic here as they enter the bus stop. You see exactly what happens with the 38. He'll get through without a problem. Open over the curbs. That is Jesse Preece in the 00. Next car they will face, but it appears that Preece will let these drivers by. All the while, Brandon Hawkins at the head of the field will catch 5 laps to go from Watkins Glen, New York.
Been a great race from him. We've said that before. It's not He took away from the green flag and immediately drove away from Lawson Peel and Luke Canup. Hasn't really had much of a battle on his hands, but very dominant here today. He's led 50 laps, which is every lap of the race so far, I believe. So he's on his way to trying to lead every lap, Kenneth. And I don't believe we've had that happen in this series. I don't think we've had a driver lead every lap. We've had some drivers come close, but nobody's been able to do the whole thing. And I think he's trying to become the first driver to lead every lap.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where in the history books we've had the last driver to lead every single lap from start to finish and go out and win the thing by at least 16 or more seconds, but the list is rather short. Brandon Hawken is looking to add on to that list as there's Luke Canup back in second. Lawson Peel brings up the rest of the top three, and then we watch again this battle for fourth. Benson as Healy and Moreno try and chase him down. Benson has not been able to get by the lap car and Jesse Prees. Could that hold them up here in the waning laps and finally let that 64 car through?
It might, but it's going to depend on where Jesse Prees gets caught on which part of the racetrack, because that plays a big role as far as to what occurs to the outcome of this battle. We've seen the three of them bunch up towards each other, but no real moves are being able to be made. That just goes to show that the pace isn't that much different than each car, so there isn't really a place where you can just kind of send one down the inside and try and hope for a move. These guys are hoping for a mistake out of somebody to try and capitalize. There you see the 64 will slide off of turn 7, but it's not enough for the 43 to mount a charge.
That was a beautiful turn 7 by Benson, opened up that gap, and the good news for him is the last lap he was the fastest. This time Moreno is out of the 3, and they're still not able to get around that 00 of Jesse Prees, although the 3 of them are creeping quite closely. So could this play a huge role in the entire situation for Kyle Benson? This has been arguably the best battle we've seen all race long, apart from Lawson Peel and Luke Canup. But the 38 gets a run up the hill through the S's. Will he make a move on the 00? Answer is no. He stays put, but he's got some wiggle room before he gets back to Healy.
And he misses the apex there, so it's going to allow Scott Healy again to close the gap up to the 38. But as soon as he does, he doesn't have the same amount of speed as he does for the rest of the lap, regardless of where he catches Kyle Benson. There you see Jesse Prees is going to move out of the way, so clean racetrack up ahead, up through Eric Schaefer for these guys. So we'll see that battle resume, and there you see your race leader getting past some more lap cars. No real challenges for him on the racetrack. At this point, it's just about keeping it clean for the next 6 or so miles.
We've got currently 9 cars on the lead lap. Forrester was the most recent to get lapped, and by the way, that's a fight for position between the Stonks Motorsports teammates, Forrester and Green, skipping over the curbs on the bus stop. And Green trying to get right to the inside to the entrance of the carousel. Cannot quite do it. And here comes the 48, moving him out of the way, down the hill, side by side for 9th. Or this is for 10th, rather.
Well, they're coming to 2 laps to go, Kenneth, so it's every man for himself at this point. And you see AJ Green's going to push him. He's going to push him down into turn 6, and it's going to end up with the 99 going a little bit faster than he wants to for this corner. Remember, he's on extremely old tires, so he's really trying his hardest to hold on to the position. AJ Green is being very aggressive. He keeps giving it to her, and he spins him out.
And the 99 goes sideways into the inside guardrail, and he was slowing up drastically. Exiting turn 7, he's going to put it in reverse and enter pit road. Unfortunately, the one-stop strategy for Colin Forster, rather, will not work this time through, as we were watching Kyle Benson. At least I was on that battle for 4th place. We'll see what happened here with the 99. Simple and plain. Just got hit by the 48, and around he goes.
Shades of Kyle Busch from the Coke 600 with the way he drove it backwards into the pit road afterwards.
I want to see exactly what happened here with Forrester. So blows it up. I think he was purposely slowing down here, Francisco, controlling his teammate.
Maybe. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think the spin was part of the plan. Because that throws away a top 10 finish for him.
Car's bogging down. Did he run out of fuel?
That could, yes, I could see that happening. I could see that happening. He definitely tried his best to make the one-stop strategy work. I believe he put it around lap 27 or 26, which was close enough as it is. It could be a possibility that he ran out of fuel.
Yeah, car was revving in the low range, and that 99 car right in front of his teammate AJ Green, gets sent around. He came down for fuel. He's back out on the racetrack. Meanwhile, white flag in the air for the 98 of Brandon Hawken. And last week at Atlanta, he stunned the entire 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series field. He led 99 of the 134 laps he ran last Wednesday. He did not get the win, courtesy of tire strategy. He fell short one placement to Luken up in the 45. But we knew that this Nexus Esports number 98 for Skybox Racing would make a statement further as he made more starts in this series. And in a season that's been absolutely stomped on by the rookie drivers, when you think of Ethan Fonseca Moreno, Luke Knupp, whether you think of Jeff No, Trevor Haley, Ryan Pandiccio, all of the other rookie drivers that have been successful this season, now you have to add to the list Brandon Hawken, who comes out of turn 7, letting it fly. Brandon Hawken comes out of the final corner, and for the first time in his 4Wide Racing career, Brandon Hawken is a winner.
Domination is an understatement for the driver that just led every single lap in this race, Kenneth. A fantastic job to get the win from pole position. And he's wasting no time celebrating. He's trying to slide it through every corner as he can as he through the cool down lap. You can tell this means a lot to him.
He's having a lot of fun, and he was in high spirits despite finishing second at Atlanta. Had so much fun. Talked to us all about it in the broadcast booth after the race. And I'm sure his spirits will be much higher this time by as he wins by a margin of 18.9 seconds, Francisco. I'm not sure whether that might be the most dominant race we've ever seen in 4Wide history, let alone by a driver making his second start.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple names that come up to the top of the list there, but I don't think any of them have led every single lap, and that's something he can keep to himself, and he'll remember that for a while. And that's some impressive drifting skills, I must say, Kenneth, because he's been doing that the whole lap.
I don't know how his tires are not dead by now. He drifts into the corner. He's in front of Kevin D'Elia, by the way, who I think
that's very impressive.
Really wants nothing to do with this, even though he is the Skybox teammate. Going to join the celebrations as Hawken comes out of turn 7. 53 is going to bring it to pit road. And Brandon Hawken, for the first time in his 4Wide career, will enter Paul's setup shop, Victory Lane.
And there it is. There it is. He can just actually spin it around and do a more traditional style burnout now after doing a quasi burnout throughout the entire cooldown lap. That was very impressive, Kenneth. I think Kevin D'Elia enjoyed watching. I think that's why he was staying behind.
Proud team driver Kevin D'Elia is, as Brandon Hawken burns it down, deservedly so, leading every single lap from green to checkered on the way to his first career win. Blows the engine, but he already used all of it over the 55 laps, up in the front, and he did not flinch. Brandon Hawken, the winner here from Watkins Glen. Let's give you a rundown of the full unofficial results from upstate New York and our first road course race of the season. Brandon Hawken, by almost 19 seconds, becomes the 7th different winner this season. Luke Knupp right behind him in P2 after getting the win last week. Certainly the consistency rolling for driver number 45. Lawson Peel wraps up the top 3, so second week in a row we get to talk to the driver of the 12. Kyle Benson, solid effort, and what a way to hold off the pressure from Ethan Fonseca Moreno and Scott Healy. All 3 of them come home 4th, 5th, and 6th. 7th place goes to Jaden Porter in the 28. Austin Reedy rounds out the top 8. He is the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Behind him, Kevin D'Elia in the 53, and AJ Green rounding out the top 10.
Ryan Pandiccio is going to end up in the 11th position with Brandon Banks down in the 12th spot. Eric Schaefer in 13th might be lucky to escape with the points lead after this race. After that one, he'll finish in the 13th position with Colin Forster in 14th. Jesse Prees will be in the 15th position. Curtis Kelly will be in 16th. Rookie Trevor Haley will be in the 17th spot. Craig Parks with a comeback to finish in the 18th spot. Tyler Murray, after being last at the end of lap 1 or 2, will finish in the 19th position. 2 laps down. Lance Hill will finish in the 20th spot after acquiring that damage earlier on.
Here's the rest of the order. 21st to David Brackett. 3 laps down. Michael Newbraw behind him in 22nd. The 42 of Christopher Bishop in 23rd. Brandon Gillis 7 laps down in 24th. 25th to Craig Lautenslager, building up a solid top 10 run before something happened to him exiting the carousel. Not entirely sure what the diagnosis is there, but went around, hit the inside guardrail, and that was it for him. Wyatt Brackett, the DNF, 24 laps down in 26th. Adam Alashire facing a crash going up the hill through the S's. He is 27th. Timothy Cook is 28th. Jeff Noe is 29th. Patrick Thompson qualified for the race, but unfortunately did not make the starting grid. He brings up the 30-car field here from New York. Well, let's bring in the driver of the number 98, who gets his first career 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series win, and we are joined for the second week in a row by Brandon Hawken. Brandon, domination was the perfect word to describe it. I'm not sure if it was a doctor's office or anything, but you put on an absolute clinic on the rest of the field. What are the emotions? What are the feelings right now as you become the 8th different winner in Season 6?
Thank you. Yeah, man, that's really cool to come home with winning one of my favorite tracks. Man, yeah, it was really tense the whole time. It was pretty much just like you had to kind of pretend you had like eggs underneath your throttle pedal, and you're balancing like 2 more on the steering wheel. It was it was fun. Track was really slick, and this car was all over the place. So yeah, you really had to keep it smooth, and just had a lot of fun there. Had some good fun there with Luke and Lawson, and I was really hoping there weren't going to be people that were going to make it on one less stop, because it was I was banking on that 2-stop strategy, and then when I saw Luke and Lawson come in lap before I did there, I was like, okay, at least don't have to worry about them staying out, and because it's hard on road courses sometimes trying to figure out the fuel strategy, and there was I think about, it would have been about 5 laps we would have had to save, so it was a little bit. I was kind of questioning what to do there a little bit, but no, that was everything went really well. All the lap cars, they did a fantastic job. They were really courteous as well, and man, yeah, just happy to come home with one there. So it was really fun. Had a really great race there last week, and happy to get top step of the podium this time.
And let's talk about that transition. Second place at Atlanta, you were really happy with that in your first start, and we were certainly impressed, and I'm sure the rest of the league was as well. They got taken aback because they were like, whoa, man, this guy's coming in for Skybox, and he is somewhat wiping the field a little bit at Atlanta. A really tough track to drive with these Xfinity Series cars, but then you transition into your second start, and it appears the confidence never left from the get-go. Was that the case, or what were your thoughts in that transition period from coming right off of that first start, finishing second, and just coming here at Watkins Glen and putting on a show?
So yeah, I've always been a road guy, and I think coming in, I felt good about my pace. It was a lot to do with saving tires. It varies so differently depending on the car, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to keep the rears on it. That's usually the problem, but I found a good sweet spot there where I was able to have some good pace while saving the rears, and coming from the oval there, I think like last week we were all like pretty much brand new to the dynamic track, how it changed, and we're all kind of learning together, and we'll see what we have coming up on the next oval. But I'll always love coming to the road courses, and Watkins Glen's always been one of my favorite tracks. So yeah, I'm really happy to get one here, and we'll see what it's like next week, because I'm sure everybody's gotten a lot more time on the new dynamic track, and we'll just see how it goes. It should be a lot of fun.
You know what's crazy is that you came into this series probably at one of the most difficult trio of tracks that we've seen in the middle of the regular season. You join at Legacy Atlanta. We know how tough that is to drive. Super hot track temp, over refresh and all. Then Watkins Glen, where we were over 120 degrees track temp, and it was really sketchy to drive all night long. And then when we come back in the new year, we get to Darlington Raceway, another really tough track to drive. So what are your thoughts about that? I know we're entering the Christmas break, so it'll be a little while before we return to action, but your thoughts on the transition now to Darlington in the next points playing race?
Yeah, Darlington's always been a little bit hit or miss for me, so we'll see how it goes. But it's going to be another track where I think we're probably going to have to be a little bit careful on the tires. At Atlanta there, I think I was a little bit too rough on them, so I think I'll have to dial it back a little bit for Darlington. And it's a track where there's a lot of attrition, and you gotta stay out of the wall, and sometimes that's a little bit difficult over there. So first part's probably about survival, and then we'll see how it goes from there. It's I'm not sure exactly how the damage is since the changes, but yeah, I'll experiment with that, see what I can get away with, see what I can't, and yeah, we'll just try to keep it clean, and we'll have another really great race, I'm sure.
Well, tonight it was clean and green all the way through. You lead every single lap. You get your first career 4-wide racing win in just your second start. I'm not sure where that lines up in the history books, but it has to be somewhere. An unbelievable performance here from Watkins Glen. Brandon, before you let you go, anybody in particular you want to thank for this monstrous run tonight?
Well, yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody at 4Wide for putting on the show, you guys at KBRN, and yeah, it's everybody out here tonight. Looked like it was a really great show there tonight. So yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody who came out, and thank the league for having me, and you guys on the broadcast. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Darlington. Should be really great. And yeah, I'd just like to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, everything. And yeah, we'll see you guys then.
All right, Brandon. Well, on behalf of us at the KBueno Racing Network, a huge congratulations on your first career 4-wide win. I'm sure that means a lot. We're excited to see what you bring into the new year and the rest of the regular season as we move forward. We wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and your family, and congratulations once again from Watkins Glen. Great job tonight.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
So that is Brandon Hawken in the 98, second career race, first career win. Let's bring it back to second place where it is BBR's Luke Canup who joins our very own Francisco Bacallao.
Well, another Undertaker intro for Luke Canup as we bring him into the booth now. Luke, it's not the win that last week was, but it was still a very fantastic run from you. Can it kind of give us the insight of what it was necessary to be able to come away with the P2 finish here tonight?
Just had to stay clean, limit mistakes, keep the tires underneath me, and I did pretty good for a few laps, staying in touch with Brandon, and then it just kind of unraveled. I slid a few times and got the rears hot, and then I kind of had to hold off Lawson, but it wasn't a great performance. I mean, you never want to lose by 19 seconds, that's for sure, but Brandon's a heck of a road course driver and a regular or oval driver as well. So congrats to him. Congrats to Lawson on third. We had a heck of a battle there at the end.
And it was a fantastic last couple of races for you, Luke. So you started to build that momentum as we now go to the All-Star race next week at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. So kind of give us what your thoughts are going into that race and the next points race over at the Darlington Raceway.
Yeah, I mean, after almost winning Daytona and ended up like 13th, I think, and then we had the couple weeks break. It's been a good few races, first and second is I mean, you can't ask for much better than that. So I'm stoked on that, and stoked to head into All-Star Week next week, and then into the winter break, and then we got Darlington right after that. So Darlington's one of my better tracks. Get back to the ovals and see what we can do.
And before we let you go, Luke, after this stellar, hardworking P2 effort, we'll let you give the opportunity to give a shout out to everyone who helps make this all possible for you and your team.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Just got to thank you two, especially for bringing me on the Bacallao. I can't even say it. KBueno Racing. I don't even know. I can't even say my own team name, bro. But thank you guys, KBueno Racing Network, for all you guys do. You guys put on a heck of a broadcast. And then Moreno Designs, Splash and Go, Impact, LKR, and then Jaden and Ethan for being great teammates.
Appreciate the time you taking us with us, Luke. And it is Bacallao. It's hard to remember. Kenneth knows it's in the native tongue, but you'll get used to it over time. But we appreciate the time you take with us, Luke, and we hope to see you out there at the All-Star race next weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe you can give me some maybe a class on how to say it. I don't know.
We'll do that.
That'll be our first training session for BBR. Is going to pronounce the name before we get into anything else.
Yes.
All right, so looking up
next week.
Looking Up comes home in second place here from the Glen, and he puts on a show here on the road course. We'll talk to the driver who comes home in third place out of all of that, and that is Season 4 champion Lawson Peel. And Lawson, man, what a race you had. A lot of tire strategy, you going back and forth with Luke Canup, undercut strategy to try and get forward near the end of the race. What went behind that call, and what did you make of it as the race came to a close?
Yeah, I just seemed to, or I knew I wanted to pit on lap 18 the first time, and you had to work in a 19 lap run in there somewhere. I was hoping maybe I could jump him after that first stop, but I wasn't able to. But yeah, both of those times I pit, I was just at the end of my tire life, and I just felt like I needed to come on in and get tires. So um, managed them a little better that last run, but yeah, just sort of a struggle all night. Just trying to keep the left rear on it for me. It's hot, I think track temp was in the 120s for most of the afternoon, and these things are tough to drive around here. They just lose grip quickly. So, but it was fun. Happy with P3. Congratulations to Hawkin for winning the race there. He was super fast, obviously. So, yeah, had a good time. Trying to learn and improve over the course of the race, but it is a struggle here. These things just really go away, much more than like the 8 car that really just stays steady over the life of a run at the road courses.
And I was about to bring that up. The key difference is, of course, the car is one of them. Track temperature and the dynamic weather was another. But strategy certainly felt way different this time around than it did with the next-gen cars. Was there anything you tried to carry on from last season's race where you got the victory to this one? Or did this one just feel like a brand new approach you had to get at it at a blank slate?
Yeah, I think totally brand new blank slate. There's not much that I can that I could identify that really carries over from running those next gen cars. I mean, the line you want to run is generally the same, but everything from the shifting to just the tire strategy, and then what always gets me is having to remember to back up the braking zones, because in the A car you can really maintain those braking zones and maintain your rhythm and your intensity, how hard you're pushing it, because the tires just don't go away. But you have to remember to back all that up as the tires go away on this thing. So, and I knew it was going to be like that. I mean, from running Coda in this thing, I mean that's just crazy. Just how much you fall off. And I've run a couple of races in this car here, and it's just so different. So. Yeah, it was blank slate for sure.
So third place here at Watkins Glen, and we know that there's going to be a Christmas break coming up in just a couple of weeks, but it's obviously safe to say you're locked in for the All-Star race next Wednesday night. That'll be at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Have any thoughts about that and racing for a bit of cash and a bit of fun?
I've done an All-Star race there before. It'll be interesting. I'm sure we'll have our share of crazy stuff going on. Short track racing, intense. So as far as what the car is going to handle like and everything there, not really sure. We'll just kind of take it as it goes, but we'll have fun with it. It'll be, kind of have an all-star race approach kind of atmosphere to that, and kind of change it up for a week.
Well, as we head to the new year, 2 straight third-place finishes at Atlanta and tonight at Watkins Glen. I'm sure that's going to mean a lot points-wise and consistency-wise as you move forward on your route to a second potential 4-wide racing championship. Lawson, we certainly appreciate the time. Anybody you want to thank for tonight's run from the Glen?
Yeah, happy with those two thirds, but again, just like last week at Atlanta, tracing those same 2 guys. So, I'm certainly seeing in my crystal ball me continuing to chase those same 2 guys for a lot of the remainder of the season. So hopefully we can find something to keep up with them. But thanks to you guys, KBueno Racing Network for doing the broadcast, TJ's team for sponsoring the league, Tyler Murray, as always, all my DBR teammates, the SpaceX astronauts, and let's see everybody that watched tonight.
All right, Lawson, always a pleasure talking to you. Congratulations on the 3rd place from the Glen. And it's going to be a lot of fun when we see you rip it at North Wilkesboro for the All-Star race next week.
You're looking forward to it. Thanks, Kenneth.
As Lawson Peel in the 12. Always great to talk to the Season 4 champ, and a consistent run for the 12 gets him a 3rd place outing from Watkins Glen. Now, Francisco, let's get our final thoughts sorted before we move forward into the schedule, and as we get a little closer to the brand new year, which we'll give our celebrations, we'll give our well wishes when we get to next week's event. But tonight was absolute domination by none other than Brandon Hawkin. You have to admire the way he was able to approach this race, go at it 100%, and just straight up put the field on a clinic to get his first win.
A lot of credit goes to him and what he was able to do here tonight. It was not an easy task to do what he did in leading every lap, but he did it also with very tough track conditions. So that just goes to show the skill inside that race car. We hope to see him out here in a couple more races and see if he's able to replicate this kind of performance on a weekly basis and become one of those contenders every week. He obviously won't be able to make the playoffs just due to the things in place that require you to make the playoffs, but certainly can make a run for it next season if he decides to return, if he keeps up these kind of performances. So it's nice to see him be able to do that. And as far as the racing itself, we saw a great race out there today. We saw a lot of guys with a lot of battles going up and down the racetrack, sliding their cars around. We also saw a lot of chaos. We saw Eric Schaefer suffer that issue there with Kevin D'Elia battling for position. It cost him a couple positions, and I believe he'll be lucky to keep the points lead after this race, just barely. But Lawson Peel's going to be right there. Ethan Fonseca is going to close in a bit as well. So the top three that has been the three best drivers all season long once again showed that they're definitely going to be up there the entire length of the regular season. Luke Knupp probably will get back into the fourth position after his second place run. He's kind of been battling in the fourth spot with Brandon Banks, it feels like, for most of the season. So those battles continue to go on. But that cut line, Kenneth, so close, so tight, and it's going to have to wait until Darlington before any changes happen to it.
You know, for us broadcasters, we have the job of conjuring up storylines and writing it down and telling you, the viewer, over the course of each and every race, especially for this season. But as it's shown throughout the winners, throughout the points fights, throughout everything that you mentioned, Francisco, the stories are writing themselves. We're just telling the story from our mouths, but the story is shown 100%, and it stays no different here with Brandon Hawken getting his first career win. Now let's look forward, Francisco. We do have a Christmas break to discuss before we go back to regular season action at Darlington next year, but we have an all-star race to complete. That at North Wilkesboro, a storied, famed track in North Carolina. First time we're going to see it ever on the KBueno Racing Network. How much fun is that going to be from your perspective?
Never covered a race from there, so it'll be interesting for me as well, but we've seen what the track has done in real life and as well in the sim when it was first released a couple of years ago. So it's going to be interesting with these race cars because we've only seen the trucks and the next gen cars there in real life. But I mean, it's all-star racing. There's going to be money on the line, and it's going to be very exciting to see what exactly goes on in that race and what gets presented to us. So I'm looking forward to it. It's like I said, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a long one too, Kenneth. It's a lot of laps in that particular race. Let me just double check here. Yes, indeed, 200 lapper from North Wilkesboro next weekend. So everyone better get their PJs ready because it's going to be a long one into the night.
We're also going to have a very interesting format to tell you once we get to race time. That comes your way next Wednesday, December 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern. You'll find it right here on the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel, as always. So that will do it for our coverage of tonight's race from Watkins Glen for the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. For Tyler Murray and everyone from the admin team and race council, for Charlie Beyer, Keelan Belsha, and for everyone at the KBueno Racing Network, and for my colleague in the booth tonight on the show, Francisco Bacallao, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Thank you so much for watching our coverage from Watkins Glen, New York. Congratulations to Brandon Hawken on his first career 4-wide win in his second start, leading every lap on the way to it. We'll see you when we go all-star racing next week at North Wilkesboro.